Hi everyone, this is Cheryl and welcome to my sewing room. I'm going to demonstrate on how to cut out quilt fabric. I'm going to show you some quick ways to cut out multiple strips, squares, and rectangles very quickly. You don't want to cut one little piece of fabric out at a time. What I use when I cut my fabrics is I have an 8.5 inch wide ruler. If you don't want to buy the 8.5 inch, I recommend you get at least the 6.5 inch wide ruler and the longest one you can get, and that is 24 inches. This is a rotary cutter. This particular one is a 60 millimeter rotary cutter. It's the larger one. I like using this because I cut through many layers of fabric. So the larger the rotary blade, the easier it is to cut through your fabrics. You can still cut through some layers of fabrics with the 45 millimeter. Make sure that your blade is sharp if you're going to be cutting out a lot of fabric. You will need a rotary cutting mat. Get the largest one that you can afford. This particular one is 56 inches long by 33 inches wide. You could place this on top of a dining room table if you don't have a large craft table. The lines on these cutting mats are going to be very valuable to you when you're cutting out your quilt fabric. When you purchase your quilt fabric, often it is not straight on the edge, especially if you go to Joann's or Walmart. They never cut it straight. Usually in quilt shops, where you can buy really nice quilting fabric, they usually cut it very straight. So if you have jagged edges, the first thing you want to do is straighten out that edge. So here is the zero line going this way, and this first line up here is also a zero line. Then it goes in 1 inch increments all the way down. There's even lines for 1/8 of an inch, 1/4, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 7/8. So it's all broken down for you. So line your fabric up on the line going across this way and pull your fabric past this zero line, and you're going to straighten out this edge. So place your ruler on the zero line up here as well as down here so that you know it is straight. And cut. Now I usually don't like to have the blade go past the end of my fingertips here before I go any farther. I lift and move it again and then again. This prevents your ruler from shifting. Now there's all kinds of tools out there that they sell that supposedly helps you to keep the ruler in place. Those have never worked for me. They still shift a little bit. So to save yourself a lot of money, just cut a little ways, lift your hand, cut a little ways, lift your hand. It's going to save you a lot of money. So I'm going to show you how to cut out a strip. So don't move your fabric. Everything's lined up. Leave it exactly where it is. So in the quilt world, 2.5 inch wide strips are very popular. So I'm putting the edge of my ruler on the 2.5 inch line up here as well as down here, and then cut. So that's how you cut out one single strip. If you wanted to cut out more, let's say you wanted 2 or 3 more, you can just keep moving your ruler over every 2.5 inches and cut out strips. You would not move the fabric, you would only move the ruler. Now let me show you a way of cutting out a lot of strips all at the same time. So fold your fabric in half. And again, you're going to straighten out the fabric up here, place it on a line up here at the top. Make sure it's nice and smooth everywhere. And you're going to do the same thing. If your edges are not straight down here, then again, pull this fabric a little ways past the first 0 line. Line your ruler up on that 0 line and cut. Now you're going to move your ruler over 2.5 inches because we're just going to cut out a lot of strips. Now don't move the fabric, lift and move the ruler over 2.5 inches, which puts me on the 5-inch line, and cut. And if you really need a lot, you just keep moving that ruler over every 2.5 inches, cutting your strips. So let's say you need to cut strips that are 2.5 inches wide by, let's say, 6.5 inches long. So take those 2.5 inch wide strips you just cut, stack them on top of each other. Now I don't like to stack more than 2 at a time because I don't feel you get a very accurate cut. Pull the selvage edges past this 0 line here. Cut your selvage edges off. Always take your time lining up your ruler. And also, make sure your fabric is straight across on the cutting lines here. Now, move the ruler over. Don't move the fabric. Place it on the 6.5 inch line. So I'm taking my ruler's edge, placing it on 6.5 inch. And all of these lines are right there on your cutting mat. And if you need a lot of them, move it over 6.5 inches again, which puts it on the 13-inch line, and line it up on that ruler, and then move it over again to the 19.5 inch line. You're moving it over 6.5 inches more, and cut. And you have 12 6.5 inch strips. Cut very quickly. I'm now going to show how to cut out squares. And again, I'm going to cut out multiple squares at a time. So I'm going to fold the fabrics, bringing the raw edges together down here. These edges are extremely jagged, so it may look like I'm wasting fabric, but I'm not really. And then you've got your selvage edges down here together. Make sure this edge is going straight across on one of your lines. Place your ruler on the 0 line, and again, take your time cutting. To cut out a square, you're going to cut the square strip, whatever the size of your square needs to be. So I'm going to cut a strip 5.5 inches wide because I need squares 5.5 inches wide. So move the ruler over 5.5 inches and cut. If you need a lot of squares of the same fabric, then you can move it over again another 5.5 inches and cut. Don't move the fabric, just the ruler. To cut out the squares, first cut the selvage edges off. Pull those selvage edges past your line here on your ruler, that 0 line. Make sure the strip is going straight across this way. That's real important. Cut the selvage edges off and make sure your ruler lines are straight this way too. Now move the ruler over every 5.5 inches and take your time lining up your ruler. Move it over again 5.5 inches, which would put you on the 11-inch line. Once you do this enough, you learn to count really fast and add really fast. And then now, 5.5 inches on the 11-inch from the 11-inch line is 16.5 inches. And cut. So you have 12 5.5-inch squares cut very quickly, and don't forget you have 12 rectangles cut very quickly. This is a half square triangle. It is used a lot in making quilts. Almost every quilt block you make has 1, 2, 3, 4 or more half square triangles in it because it's so easy to create really beautiful designs using it. So here's a sample of a quilt block, and some of you have been watching me have already seen this. This is part of the Botanical Quilt Block series. So here are 2 half square triangles, and down here at the bottom are 2 half square triangles. A very popular quilt block that is used quite a lot is the pinwheel quilt block. And each one of these is that half square triangle. So I'm going to refer you to a video that shows you how to make 8 of these half square triangles. And you're going to start out with just 2 squares. And out of the 2 squares, you're going to get 8 of these, and you can make 2 pinwheel pot holders out of it. So the squares are something like this. You'll be shown how to draw some lines on it, stitch on those lines, cut them up really quickly, and you will wind up with 8 half square triangles just out of this 2 pieces of fabric. So if you're interested in learning this speedy method, click on the link in the upper right hand corner called Fast 8 Half Square Triangles. This is a 4-patch pattern right here, and this is a pot holder. So it's got 4 squares in it. Inside of this, there's also 2 more 4-patch designs. So it's a 4-patch within a 4-patch. So if you like to make the 4-patch design, I'm going to refer you to a video called Fast Fat Quarter 4-Patch. And you're going to start out with 2 fat quarters, and you will wind up with 28 little 4-patch designs like this. You can make 7 pot holders out of those 2 fat quarters. So if you're interested in learning how to cut and stitch together really fast these 28 4-patch designs, then click on the link in the upper right hand corner called Fast Fat Quarter 4-Patch. For more sewing projects in which you can use some of these designs, then play this video until a green screen appears and then click on the links. If you like this video, click on thumbs up and then click on share to share this video with your friends. And if you haven't subscribed yet, click on that red button down there in the lower right hand corner of your screen. Click on the little bell and enter your email address so you receive emails about my latest video. If you're not receiving those email notifications, go to your cell phone or iPad, click on Settings, and turn notifications in the on position. This is Paul, this is Manny, this is Jamie. So glad you came to my sewing room. See you next time, and happy sewing!